It's really boring. I'm like, when does it end? I want it to end right now. I found this bent spoon on the sidewalk. I almost wanted to say that I bent it with the power of my own mind, but I didn't. So I'm going to give it a go and draw it. There are some shadows on the tape. It's kind of a flat spoon, but my challenge is to just sort of observe it, meditate the spoon, and hopefully capture the reflectivity of it. So I will just start out with a little bit of an outline of the general shape. I'm not going to sweat it too much. It's going to be very delicate outline. There's the handle. The handle kind of has some thickness to it. And I know that the kind of photorealistic art is more popular generally. It gets more likes because the kind of illusionistic aspect of realistic art is very captivating, and also it's satisfying for the artist to do too, except I don't really feel like hyper-realistic art or photorealistic art carries any weight, creatively speaking. It's just an exercise to me, and it can be practiced, and you can learn it. You can learn to draw vaguely realistically within a few months, and then perfect your, the kind of connection between your mind and your brain and your hand, your eyes. I think the connection is between your eyes, between what you perceive and how your brain is reading it, and also the skillfulness of your gesture, of your hand. Although the skillfulness of your gesture is secondary, I think, as a skill, because I don't know, I feel like you could draw pretty well a realistic drawing with your foot, as long as you understand the illusion of reality and the shape that you can emulate. Then the skill is kind of just helpful in a way you can achieve some sort of precision. And I think in this case I will have to rub my pencil against some surface in order to sharpen it for better detail. And I'm just doing on a scrap piece of paper. And the level of focus that's needed for this is not that different from my other abstract drawing that I'm making. It's just sort of, I have a reference, so in some sense it's even easier to render this spoon, because I have the guidelines, and I can actually compare it to driving on the highway with all the rules. So the way of thinking about creating an illusion of realistic surface is to think of all surfaces as mirrors, reflective. So all surfaces that you can think of have a level of reflection, just like mirror does. Mirror has a 100% potential for reflection. And the spoon here, that's kind of scuffed up, has a little less reflective quality, and also it's distorted. So the reflections will be distorted also. But if you think about all the objects you look at in terms of it being a mirror, then it's becoming a little easier to capture all the details, because you can start seeing the reflections. I see a reflection of the tripod, the distorted reflection of the tripod in the spoon. So I'm not really looking at the irregularities of the spoon as random. I just see it as a mirror that reflects the room around it. And I'm zeroing in on which areas are dark around the edge here, and which areas are going to be brighter and need to be left alone. And there are some areas that are just white, and I will have to be very mindful to leave them white and shiny. Like here, there's like a little bright, very bright spot. And it does help to close one eye. And of course, it also is important to close just one eye, because if you keep closing different eyes at different times, then you will see a different picture. So I'm closing my left eye here, and I see that very bright spot here. Also, in order to see the details better, it helps to squint. So I'm trying to zero in on this edge of the spoon here. There's a little detail here. And let's see if we can just kind of put it on autopilot and maybe ramble us about something else. Or is the focus a little bit too intense to be able to do that? We'll see. And I'm sort of following the shape of the spoon as if I was actually drawing on it. So I wonder if that spoon actually was bent with the power of someone's mind. Like Uri Geller, who claimed to have been able to bend the spoons, and then has been exposed by James Randi as a trickster, because that's what it was. There's no scientific way or explanation of someone being able to bend metal with the power of their mind. There's no such thing. Telekinesis is the realm, from the realm of the myth. It's cool, but it's not real. And this is the inspiration for my thesis show. When I was ending my college, my art college in Boston, I came up with the final thesis show being a little bit tongue-in-cheek. I wanted it to be somehow a response to the situation of getting a master's degree, and so I called it the Master of Wonders, and I made it seem as if I was the spoonbender, like Uri Geller, and I made it kind of in the style of like clairvoyant 19th century magician or Houdini kind of style, and I just made a video of myself sitting at the table and staring intensely at a spoon, hoping and actually believing that it's going to bend with my own mind. And the video was part of the exhibition. I put some bent spoons in the exhibition. I made a little booth that looked like one of those 19th century freak shows, kind of, where the video was played. And then the funny thing happened that could be somewhat mysterious. When I was recording the video, staring at the spoon, over time, I probably stared at the spoon for an hour. And within that video, there's one moment when the light bulb that I used to lit myself just blew up suddenly, boom, and it's recorded in the video. And I wonder if it was the sort of misguided focus of my mind that kind of went from focusing on the spoon into the light bulb, and it blew up the light bulb. But of course, the Occam's razor explanation of it is that I just basically had a light bulb that was old maybe and ready to burst, and it did. So this curved shape I'm drawing here is the leg of the tripod that's standing on the table. And also, since there is a very bright spot here that I want to preserve, I will have to make this area darker. So by making the surroundings dark, I hopefully successfully will indicate that this spot here is very bright. So I will kind of block it off, and I will not try to touch it. I will try not to smudge it, because that will be a disaster. And other than that, I'm just going to copy all the shapes that I see in the spoon. It's like a parroting. It's really, there's really nothing creative. It's all about just observation and skill and meditation. But I don't know if you know this, but artists get upset when the public focuses their attention more on the skill of capturing photorealistically everything rather than the pure expression. It's kind of disappointing, because the pure expression stuff is much more difficult to pull off. And even if it's very simple, it's very serendipitous and it's very hard to do. Whereas this is just basically following the shape and seeing how it unfolds. So it's kind of weird, when I look at the spoon with both eyes, there are different reflections. It's a combination of both eyes seeing the spoon. But when I close one eye, I only see a little bit simpler. I also see a track light here that I might have to include. Everything is reflected in the spoon. So it's not really a bunch of random shapes. So I don't know how long it will take. I might not even be able to finish it. It might take a little longer than some of the abstract drawings I've been making. And also there's the difference here between the reflection and the scuff marks on the spoon. There's some rusty marks on it. But this area here is kind of dark, so I have to darken it. And it's also pretty simple. It's not very bright, and it's flat, and the edge here is quite dark here. So this pencil kind of, it's not very precise pencil. It gives me kind of a fuzzy line, like this one here. Make it sharper. Yeah. Here's the tripod. And here is another leg of the tripod that's darker. Yeah, it's sort of interesting how there's a disconnect between what artists want to do and what audience expects them to do, and how it's different. Sometimes it's really not overlapping, and artists and the audience tend to get disappointed when artists are delving into an experimentation that's sort of risky, and the audience is like, oh, he changed his style, or she changed her style, too bad. Or they kind of get very sad when they see the early Picasso works. Early Picasso, basically his drawings and paintings were pretty realistic and quite masterful. Then the more recent Picasso was just, for the untrained person, achieving the illusion of reality is very magical. And I understand that because I also craved it. I also wanted to achieve that level when I was learning, when I was a child. But then I kind of realized that it's just gets boring after a while. It's like, you draw a still life accurately, and then you ask one question that every artist fears: so what? So what? What are you trying to say? So I have to create this edge a little sharper here for the leg. But if it turns into be a disaster, then I will have to hide it away and never show it, because then it will undermine my theory that this kind of drawing is easier than the kind of abstract meandering. But of course, if this video receives more likes and views, then I will be upset again. Ironically, I'll be like, yay! But because that's not what I want from my art. This part has to be dark here. And it's the contrast. So the most masterful depictions of reality are Dutch still lifes, and Dutch people, Dutch painters, were sort of like almost in a race amongst each other to be able to capture the reflectivity, transparency, glass. The pinnacle of achievement was being able to draw or paint like a bottle of water with all the illusions that are involved. Or grapes, and they're strict to it. You can paint, no matter what you paint, velvet or a mirror or glass, it's all a mirror. Even velvet has a reflective quality to some extent. The only thing that doesn't reflect light at all is that super black paint that's now developed, that Anish Kapoor kind of hogged. But other than that, everything that reflects light can be seen as a mirror. And just understanding the texture brings you closer to knowing how to capture it. Texture and the way it bounces light off. Absorbs some light and bounces some other light away from it. That's all there is to it. I'm closing in on the spoon part of the spoon, which is like, I think this is the most tense. And I'm glad that I actually started from the more difficult part of the drawing, this part, but it's really not as complicated as it seems. And then I have to include these scuff marks here and some lines on the ceiling. So it does kind of like, on one hand, it does help to turn off this sense of like what you're looking at and just draw the shapes as abstract random blobs, because that way your brain doesn't over-explain what you see. You kind of trust it. On the other hand, it does help to have some sense of what you're drawing, because that way understanding the reflections in this spoon makes it way easier for me to capture all these nuances. And here I'm going to take care of the shadow that's on the table, because it's going to be important to mark that edge. All right. There's this very thin line here. And there's this very barely noticeable edge on the spoon. That's bright, and then it turns into dark here. And there's still shadow behind it. So this dark part here is pretty important. And then the shadow. So the shadow is on the flat table, and I'm going to use a little bit different line for it, different pattern to differentiate it. But the shadow is also quite sharp, so I will have to make sure that the shadow really is accurate. And here the shadow is against the bright edge of the spoon. Alright, so it is taking a lot of focus, and the one indication is that apparently I'm unable to think or talk about anything aside from what I'm doing. Just everything takes certain amount of focus, and the focus is different each time. It's just different sort of challenge. Okay, and then there's this continuous dark line here, and then this part of the spoon where it's bent gets dark again. And it's not perfect. I would not want to be obsessive about it. There are going to be some discrepancies, and the key is to capture the reflection, the material quality of the spoon, either by exaggerating some of the features. And changing things is also fine, and also really paying close attention to those areas where the contrast is stronger, where the lines are crisper, like here. Here I will have to like really do my best in making this line crisp. Like so. And there are some irregularities. And the spoon has some dimension to it. This has to be a little darker. Okay. Then for more contrast, I will have to darken the surrounding areas. And that bright spot already changed because the light is changing. So I have to kind of come up with some solutions about how to deal with this. There's a little distorted shape here. I don't know, so far it doesn't look like anything. Also, my previous video hit the double-digit number of views. That's probably part of it is because I shared it on Facebook, and some friends were like, "Oh, let's see what's that about," and "Oh, okay, that's boring," and they probably watched like a minute of it. But I think also it helped to have nice kind of a little bit of a production involved with nice music in the background in the beginning and some humor inserted. It does help to make things funny, not boring. Here's the truck light. Here's like a pretty grayish uniform ceiling here. And here are the bright spots. Don't lose that brightness here. And the light will change as the sun sets, and I think my mistake was to start it with the daylight and going into the dawn, and the light will change, and I'll have to adapt to it somehow. Some of it is I will have to use memory of what I saw when I started. But there are some changes already starting to take place, for better or for worse. And as long as I keep this area nice and bright, then I'll get the illusion of the shininess here. I might need to even increase the contrast more. Yeah, so that bright spot reflection transformed, and I'm actually going with how it was when I started. And it's very important realization that things change when you are working on an artwork that involves observing. Part of the observation is seeing how things change and how you can adapt to it. And that also applies to life. Aha, how deep. There's a lot of things that we do that we can kind of philosophize about and apply them to life in general, which is kind of neat. I'm going to refine this edge here. And this part is also gray. How about that? It's not the spoon that bends, it's your mind. if you are one of the youngsters, you should know that there was a movie made in early 2000s or late 90s called Matrix. Of course, everybody knows Matrix. I'm just messing with you. But look how old this movie now is and how timeless in terms of the story telling, special effects, concepts. It's pretty timeless movie. Matrix 1. The other parts are a little less timeless. It's the syndrome of everything that's kind of created originally and independently, kind of, that becomes very original and interesting, then becomes kind of Hollywoodized, and just the creators catch the whiff of success, and then they end up creating sequels that cater to like more mass appeal, like epic fights and insipid story, poor dialogues, and then it kind of becomes pretty sad. Wasted potential. But that's what most people would be more likely to watch. So yeah, and then because this pencil is sort of soft and fuzzy, the paper texture is fuzzy, this spoon will look a little bit more like it's made of wool. Hopefully I can achieve the level of hardness of the metal by taking care of all these edges. Yeah, so the light, we're losing light here. I'm just about to darken everything else aside from these. So I'm making everything around it darker in order to bring out that shine. And that's the old trick. And this is very dark here. It's almost like the full darkness of the graphite and scuff marks. All right. Fortunately, I am done with this most difficult part here, and I'm moving down to the handle, which is sort of pretty uniform, kind of dark, just dark, with some nuances. There is a pretty sharp edge here. So it's very important to have the edges that are sharp really marked as sharp edges. Otherwise everything looks fuzzy and the illusion of hardness of metal is lost, which I kind of did lose. Like there's a little bit of sloppy fuzziness here. I'm not going to obsess about it, and I also have to be careful not to smudge this part, because that would be a disaster. Maybe I did smudge it already. I'm creating the illusion here of that roundness here. Darker here, darker, way darker. it's a concave spoon, so I have to make concave lines. All right, handle. The multiple shadow syndrome here, because I have multiple windows here and another light source, the lamp. So I have to make some choices, because then I would be confused. There's another bright spot here I have to preserve. I don't know, it's kind of... Okay, I'm not going to judge it yet. It is what it is. Maybe it's harder than I thought. Ooh, I think I lost that detail here. All right, this bright spot here needs to be marked. And then there's this thickness. And that's where the contrast kind of gets lost. And there's a tiny smudge of light on the edge here. Oh man, I am rusty with this. That's what I get for not appreciating the realistic rendering. I get my butt kicked. Things are not as easy. It's a very tiny drawing too. That shadow is still here. Is that better? A little better. Handle. Let's see if we can handle the handle. This part here almost looks like an outline. So I don't know if I finished telling the story of my thesis show, The Master of Wonders. So because it was my second master degree final show, and I kind of felt a little fatigued with these hoops, having to prove my worth to some kind of board of professionals. I already went through it. My first diploma work, I mentioned it in some of the first videos, was also sort of ironic take on the situation, because I really enjoyed, as a student, I really enjoyed kind of taking a stance against whatever situation I'm in, against or for, or just sort of matching my art with whatever I was going through. And for the first thesis show in Poland, I did a self-promotional advertisement of me as a person, but very superficial features of myself as a person were highlighted. So superficial smile, the way capitalism turns us into these like smiling, basically dolls, smiling and grinning and consuming, and just sort of wanted to create this self-promotion, basically, because that's basically what it was about, proving my worth to a bunch of professionals, a lot of them very jaded. So yeah, I didn't do very well in terms of the grade I received for my diploma in Poland. I got B, but I still don't regret it. I feel like it was necessary to do. I just had to like really make a jump, make a courageous, take a courageous step towards pretty much abandoning whatever techniques, whatever skills I learned, and just making something from scratch and just taking on the system. And that's, when you're a student, it's sort of very important to you to like kind of respond to the system you find yourself in, and it kind of wears off. I think this has to be smaller. So yeah, I think I kind of blew this part, the bend part, which was pretty important part. But, well, I am distracting myself with the talking. No excuses. But sometimes there are moments like that in your process when you feel like this is garbage, this is not going where I want it to go. But then I wouldn't quit right away. I would see where it takes me first, complete the whole thing. Oh, there's the cool guy. Complete it first, and then see where I can kind of bring out the details that actually make this piece more defined. So maybe the handle will save the day. And then just kind of step away, look at the whole thing, see where you can bring out all these details. And what's this whole drawing is about? Like, you know, maybe there is something that you're still missing. You don't see the big picture yet. So like, I consider this challenge to be quite difficult because the spoon is reflective, but also not reflective. It has scuff marks, it has dirt on it, and it's distorted. It's not your usual spoon. And then the funny thing about bending spoons with the power of your mind is that when you think about it, pretty much all the spoons that are bent with the power of one's mind, because it takes a mind to decide that you want to bend the spoon, and then whether you bend it with your hands or with pliers, it's still the mind that does the bending. So there's some magic in reality after all. But do not fall for the charlatans and tricksters like Uri Geller. He made huge amount of money. Like, he really took a lot of people for a ride. Oh, I lost the detail here. I'm counting my losses here. There's a lot of scuff marks here. And some reflections in this handle. I also feel like this spoon needs more of a context, like the background, and kind of needs to be placed against a backdrop of what's around it. So I'm just kind of finding the shape here. So this handle, basically when I squint and close one of my eyes, it just reads as just dark shape, just gray dark shape. But I won't be fooled by it. There are some edges here, like this one, that are brighter, and that makes the volume of the metal, the thickness of the metal, read as a maybe 2 millimeters thick. And all of the dark shapes reflected in this part come through too. And I do have to be careful to darken everything. Everything that's not this and this has to be darker. So I might have to do a once over and maybe darken the entire surface of the spoon in order to bring out this shininess. And there is a shadow here, but I don't want to risk it. Sometimes it's actually better to draw the object itself and forget about the surroundings and shadows. It depends on the intention of your exercise. Like maybe I don't have to draw shadows around it because the purpose of this exercise is to capture the material, the shininess and reflectiveness of the spoon. So there's this fine line between being a skeptic and being willing to suspend your disbelief and sort of wonder and be taken by the story, by the fiction. And the key is to know the difference, to know when you are just daydreaming and when you are putting on a tinfoil hat. And if you can't make that difference, if you can make out that difference, then you might be in trouble of losing yourself in false simulation of reality, a reality that's created by tricksters and hoaxsters. Occam's razor. Maybe razor should be the next thing to draw. What's the most likely explanation? Because some things can't be falsifiable. You can't actually find evidence for some things, but you can try to find the explanation based on considering what's the most likely explanation. Was this spoon bent by a mind? Yes and no. Is the earth flat? No, but when you actually think about it, the earth is kind of flat. So it's both. Sometimes it's both, but it's depending on the context of what you're asking. The earth is flat, but also earth is a planet, and all planets, because of the size, form themselves into balls, into spheres. There's no other way around it. That's kind of disappointingly flat, this area here, but that's how it's reading here, so that's how I draw it. All right. even darker. And I'm going to go over everything because this spot here is almost as bright as this, so this has to be toned way down. Spoon bending. It'd be cool to figure out how the Matrix works. The moment in Matrix when Neo is standing in the subway, I think, and then he sees the green numbers kind of moving in front of his eyes. That's when the moment of his breakthrough happens. He finally cracked the Matrix, and he can bend its reality to his will. And then the moment when he fights the agents again, but this time like he can anticipate their every move and deflects all their fighting moves with such ease. It's very satisfying to watch. And it's probably a great feeling to achieve this kind of mastery in whatever you do. But I think it's short-lived, because eventually that ease will turn into boredom. You will seek a new challenge, something to break through. Otherwise it just becomes boring. Being able to like do something with tremendous ease, it's exhilarating to start with. The same goes for the scene. One of my favorite scenes is the scene in Iron Man when Tony Stark just about built his flying suit, his autonomic suit, flying and fighting suit, and he took it for a spin. It was like really not that much of a consequence to the plot, but the scene itself is just feels so liberating to watch him kind of take the suit for a spin, just go woohoo, and you know it's exhilarating at first, sort of like winning a lottery. But then you're like, okay, now what? And then it becomes your second nature, just like driving. And then you're like, okay, I'm going to put the suit on and I'm going to fly around in it. No big whoop. And it's kind of sad how everything becomes mundane. And I think the key to surviving this is finding new challenges or different challenges. And changing things is the key to keeping things interesting. So here's my fuzzy spoon. It's I think if I ever try it again, I'm going to go with the kind of automatic pencil with very thin lead, because this fuzzy pencil kind of gave me trouble. But I'm going over the spoon again. I think I'm feeling quite optimistic about the outcome, as I took care of all the contrasts and all the different areas that are very important, like contrasts and edges. There's a very sharp line here. I'm going to sharpen my pencil. And make that mark here a very important mark. You need good eyes for it to unless you can use a bigger paper. And here's the shadow. So with drawing too, it's like when you achieve this sort of level of drawing, realistic drawing, it's sort of so gradual that you don't even notice, you don't even feel that exhilaration and all the work that you've put into it. It's sort of tedious. And then you draw it, and then others look at it and say, oh wow, that must be so exciting for you. And it's not. It's really boring. I'm like, when does it end? I want it to end right now. I'm already bored. I really want to let loose, let my hair down, and make something that's more creative. This is not creative at all. And if you like this more than other things, I don't know what to tell you. So in order to make this whole spoon more subdued in comparison with that bright spot, I will just go over the whole spoon with a gradient, with a value of gray, very lightly. Does it look like anything? Sometimes one little element can change everything, either for good or for worse. Now I'm kind of going over this and create these nuances of reflections. And the concave quality of it. The more contrast, the better. I don't know, I'm going to be very upset if this has a lot of likes and views. Ironic. I want you to like the other stuff. I can't make you want to like something. It's like I can't make people like something. You can't force anyone to like what you want them to like, and that's part of the challenge of art. Right here now, everything's changed to such extent that now I'm kind of, I would probably spoil it if I explored it. Track light. All right, here's the spoon. Yay! This is my least favorite part. I really blew this one. There needs to be more light here. But that's where I might leave it.